My name is Alexandra Pritchard. I'm 27. 3 days ago, at my rehearsal dinner, the woman who was supposed to become my mother-in-law looked me in the eye and said, "My son deserves someone with breeding, not a girl whose mother scrubbed my friend's toilets for a living." She said it in front of 65 people. My fiancé froze, and when his mother told him to sit down, he sat. I took off my ring, set it on the table, and left. They didn't know that for months, I'd been carrying a secret his grandmother entrusted to me before she died. They didn't know what I'd discovered about their perfect family. And when I walked into a meeting 1 week later, everything Marguerite Ashford thought she controlled came crashing down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where it started. The rehearsal dinner was at Magnolia Plantation, one of those antebellum estates where Charleston's old money goes to remind everyone else who doesn't belong. The kind of place where the chandeliers cost more than most people's cars and the silence feels expensive. 65 guests, all dressed in what I'd learned to call quiet luxury, the kind of wealth that whispers instead of shouts. I sat at the family table, wedged between Preston and his great-aunt somebody. Fresh magnolia centerpieces lined the center, $340 each according to the invoice I'd accidentally seen. Menu cards printed with the Ashford family crest sat at every place setting. I'd learned early on that in families like this, even dinner came with documentation of lineage. Marguerite Ashford sat at the head of the table. Preston's mother. My future mother-in-law. A woman who could make kindness look like condescension, and condescension look like violence, all while smiling like she was doing you a favor. She stood to give what I thought would be a welcome toast. She held her champagne flute the way people hold weapons they know how to use. Her smile never reached her eyes. "We're so glad to welcome everyone tonight," she began. Pleasant enough. I felt Preston's hand find mine under the table. Preston has always had such a generous heart. The shift happened in the pause. You know how you can feel a room change temperature? How you can sense when someone's about to say something that will reshape the air itself. "But I must be honest," Marguerite continued. Her voice didn't rise. "That's the thing about real power. It doesn't need volume. My son deserves a partner who understands legacy, not someone whose mother spent her life cleaning the homes of people in this room." The sound of silverware being placed down. 1, 2, 5, 10. Across the room, guests froze mid-bite, mid-sip, mid-breath. Mrs. Adelaide Pemberton, Eleanor's old friend, gasped audibly. I heard it from 3 seats away. James, Preston's cousin, the one the family had disowned for marrying a man, started to stand. His husband grabbed his arm. I felt Preston's hand twitch toward mine, then pull back. 65 people. Complete silence. You could hear the air conditioning hum. You could hear someone's phone vibrate 2 tables over. My heartbeat was loud in my ears, but my hands— I was surprised by this. My hands were steady. I looked at Preston, not Marguerite. "Preston." I waited. "Mom," he said. Quiet, almost a whisper. "This isn't—" Marguerite cut him off, louder now. "Sit down, Preston. The adults are talking." I watched him. I watched the moment happen in his eyes. The decision. The calculation. The cowardice. His chair scraped slightly as he shifted his weight. But he didn't stand. That sound, that small wooden scrape, that's what I'll remember. Not her words, not the silence. The sound of him staying in his seat. My fingers moved to the ring. Platinum band, Eleanor's heirloom diamond, appraised at $47,000. Preston had been so proud when his grandmother gave it to him to propose with. "She chose you," he'd said. "She never gave this to anyone." Eleanor had chosen me, just not the way Preston thought. I removed the ring slowly, deliberately. I wanted everyone to see. I wanted Marguerite to see. I placed it on the table. It made a small sound against the china. The only sound in a room of 65 people holding their breath. I stood. I looked at Marguerite, not Preston. Mrs. Ashford, I said. My voice was calm, calmer than I'd expected. My mother cleaned houses with more dignity than you've shown in your entire life. Then I walked out. 47 steps from the family table to the exit. I counted them to keep myself from breaking, to keep my spine straight, to keep my hands from shaking. The valet handed me my car keys. 2019 Honda Civic. Preston had offered to buy me something nicer. I'd said no. Now I understood why. Some part of me had always known I might need my own escape route. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the parking lot. By the time I got home, 17 missed calls. I didn't answer any of them. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I saw Preston in my rearview mirror. He'd run outside. He stood there, watching my car disappear. He didn't chase me. He never did chase me. I got back to my apartment a little after 10. North Charleston, 1 bedroom, $1,150 a month. Not glamorous, but mine. Paid for with my salary from First Light, not his family's money. I didn't cry. That surprised me too. I thought I would. I thought I'd fall apart. Instead, I made tea. Earl Grey, too hot, the way my mother used to make it when things were bad. I sat at my kitchen table and pulled out a manila folder I'd been keeping in my bedroom safe for 2 months. The tab read, Ashford Foundation, Evidence. 340 pages. Bank statements, fake invoices, board meeting minutes where Marguerite voted to deny scholarships she later claimed were unqualified. Emails, spreadsheets, the paper trail of a woman who thought she was untouchable. I'd been preparing for this moment, not hoping for it, but preparing. On my desk, there was a photo of Eleanor Ashford. We'd taken it together at the scholarship gala 2 years ago, back when I was just a grateful former recipient, and she was just a kind old woman who remembered my college essay. Before I knew what she was about to ask me to do, before I understood why she'd chosen me, I stared at that photo for a long time. Then my phone rang. Caller ID. James Ashford. I answered. James. Alex. His voice was tight, panicked. I could hear him breathing hard. Are you okay? I was about to get in my car and come find you, but Daniel said I should call first. I'm fine. That wasn't fine. That was... He stopped. I'm so sorry. I should have said something. I should have stood up. You tried to, I said. I saw. Not hard enough. He paused. I heard an engine in the background. He was calling from his car. Alex, listen. There's something you need to know. After you left, Marguerite called an emergency board meeting, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. She's moving to have you removed from the foundation board. I'd expected this. Part of me had counted on it. On what grounds? She's claiming Eleanor was mentally unfit when she appointed you. She's saying you manipulated a dying woman, and... He hesitated. She's filing for a restraining order tomorrow. She's going to claim you've been... I don't know how to say this. Seducing Preston to gain access to foundation money. The time on my phone read 11:47 p.m. James, I said, what time did Eleanor pass away? Silence. Confused silence. June 18th. Why does that? Eleanor appointed me to the board April 22nd, 2 months before she died. My voice was steady, factual. She was sound of mind. Jeffrey Sterling witnessed it. So did her oncologist, and a psychiatrist she hired specifically to document her mental capacity for exactly this reason. I heard James's breath catch. Your aunt can't remove me, James. The bylaws don't allow it without cause and a unanimous vote, and I have something Marguerite doesn't know exists. What? Her mother-in-law's last words, I said, in writing. Alex, what are you going to do? I looked at the folder on my table, at the photo of Eleanor, at the evidence of everything Marguerite had stolen. I'm going to finish what Eleanor asked me to finish. After I hung up, I didn't sleep. I sat at my laptop and drafted an email. The timestamp would later show 12:33 a.m., November 28, 2025. Subject line: Re-emergency meeting of Ashford Foundation Board, fiduciary breach and financial irregularities. Body: pursuant to Ashford Foundation. Bylaws Article 6, Section 3. I hereby call an emergency meeting of the Board of Directors to address matters of fiduciary breach and financial irregularities. Meeting, December 9, 2025, 10 a.m., First Light Scholars Office, 340 Meeting Street. Attendance mandatory per Bylaws Article 6, Section 5. Evidence packets attached. Alexandra Pritchard, Board Member. 72 hours notice. Exactly what the bylaws required. Clean, legal, unassailable. I CC'd all 11 board members. I CC'd Jeffrey Sterling, the family attorney. I CC'd IRS, Special Agent Rebecca Thornton. I CC'd SC, Deputy Attorney General Daniel Fletcher. I CC'd William Porter at the Charleston Post and Courier. The attached file was 47.8 megabytes, 340 pages of evidence. I hit send at 12:33 a.m. The printer hummed to life. 23 copies, one for each person who'd be in that room. My coffee maker was set to start at 5:30 a.m. I finally lay down around 3. My phone buzzed again. Preston. Text message. Alex, please. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I read it. I didn't reply. I deleted it. Some conversations don't deserve to happen. Let me tell you about how I got here. About how a girl whose mother cleaned houses ended up holding the power to destroy one of Charleston's oldest families. It started with a letter. June 2015. I was 17, about to graduate high school. My father had been dead 2 years. Industrial accident. No life insurance. My mother worked 3 jobs, including one for a company called Spotless Solutions. She cleaned houses for people who never learned her name. The letter came on First Light Scholars' letterhead, a lighthouse logo, simple, hopeful. Congratulations. You have been selected as a First Light Scholar. Full tuition, 4 years, $28,000 per year, funded by Ashford Foundation grant. I'd gotten into Yale 2 weeks earlier. I'd planned to defer. There was no money. There was never money. My mother cried when I read her the letter. She held it with cleaning chemical raw hands and cried in a way I'd never seen before. Twoje ojciec byłby tak dumny, she whispered. Your father would be so proud. I didn't know then that the woman who'd signed that scholarship check would one day hand me the power to dismantle her daughter-in-law's life. I didn't know Eleanor Ashford existed. Not yet. I met her for the first time in December 2023. By then, I'd graduated Yale. I'd come back to Charleston. I'd taken over as executive director of First Light Scholars, the same organization that had saved my life 8 years earlier. The annual scholarship gala, Francis Marion Hotel, Swamp Fox Room. I was speaking on a panel titled First Generation Success Stories, standard stuff. Tell your story, inspire the donors, make them feel good about their tax-deductible contributions. After the panel, an elderly woman in a wheelchair approached me, 91 years old, sharp eyes, a handwritten name tag that said, E. Ashford, founder, in shaky script. Eleanor Ashford. You were the 2015 scholar, weren't you? She said. Her voice was stronger than her hands. I remember your essay. You wrote about your father's hands. I was stunned that she remembered. Hundreds of scholars over decades, and she remembered mine. Yes, ma'am, he was a mechanic, she smiled. Not the society smile I'd learned to recognize, a real one. Would you have coffee with me next week? She asked. There's something I'd like to discuss. I said yes, of course. You don't say no to the woman who paid for your education. I had no idea what she was about to ask me. We met at Kudu Coffee on King Street, January 8, 2024. Not the kind of place Charleston society goes. Eleanor had specifically asked to meet somewhere you feel comfortable. She ordered black coffee, no sugar, same as me. She was dying. She told me this in the first 5 minutes. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 6 to 12 months. Her children didn't know yet. She wanted to talk about the foundation, about legacy. She asked subtle questions about Marguerite, testing questions. My daughter-in-law runs the foundation now. Do you work with her often? I was careful, diplomatic. We submit grant proposals. The process is thorough. Eleanor gave me a sharp look. That's a diplomatic answer. Her hand trembled when she reached for her coffee cup. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. I don't have much time, she said, so I'll be direct. I need to know if you're as brave as your scholarship essay suggested. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. She leaned forward. Because I need someone brave, and I think it might be you. That was the beginning. The real conversation happened 2 months later, March 15th, 2025. Eleanor's private study in the Ashford estate on South Battery, one of those houses that make you feel small just by existing. History in every floorboard, legacy in every portrait on the wall. Eleanor was much sicker by then. She'd lost 34 pounds. There was an oxygen tank next to her chair. She dismissed her nurse before I sat down. Her desk was mahogany, massive, older than both of us combined. It had belonged to her husband, Samuel Ashford, who'd founded the Scholarship Fund in 1875. The walls were lined with photos of scholarship recipients going back decades. My photo from the 2015 gala was there, third row, next to a girl who'd gone on to become a doctor. Eleanor handed me a manila folder. I've known about Marguerite stealing for 18 months, she said. No preamble, no softness. I hired a private investigator. These are copies of everything. I opened the folder. Bank statements, wire transfers, shell company registrations. The numbers swam in front of me. Mrs. Ashford, this is nearly $5 million. 4.832 million to be precise, Eleanor corrected. Stolen from children like you. I looked up at her. She was crying. Silent tears, the kind that come when you're too tired to sob. Why don't you go to the police? I asked. Because I'm a coward. She said it simply, like a fact. I can't bear the scandal destroying what my husband built. The foundation has done so much good. If I expose Marguerite publicly, the donors will flee. The board will panic. Everything Samuel worked for will collapse. So what do you want me to do? She pulled out another folder. Thinner. 6 letters, each one notarized. I'm appointing you to the foundation board next month. Marguerite will receive the notice, but she'll dismiss it as a dying woman's sentimentality. She doesn't know I'm giving you veto power over distributions above 500,000. She doesn't know about these letters. What's in the letters? Documentation, Eleanor said. I'm going to confront Marguerite, multiple times, about the money, about what she's done, and I'm going to write down everything she says. A psychiatrist will witness each letter to confirm I'm of sound mind. When I die, these letters will be yours. She looked at me, really looked at me. I'm dying, Alexandra. I'm too weak to fight her. But you're not weak. You never were. Will you finish what I can't? I thought about my father's hands, about my mother's raw skin, about 17-year-old me opening that scholarship letter. If I do this, I said slowly, I'll lose Preston. She grabbed my hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. If you don't do this, 100 more children will lose their futures. Which matters more? I knew the answer. I think I'd always known. I'll do it. Eleanor died on June 18th, 2025. The funeral was private, family only. I wasn't invited, but I went to the public memorial service 4 days later. Cathedral of St. Luke and St. Paul, 340 people, white roses everywhere, Eleanor's favorite. The flowers alone probably cost $12,000. Marguerite gave the eulogy. She wore a black Chanel suit that cost $8,400. I knew because I'd learned to recognize these things. Learn to see wealth the way you learn to see ghosts. By the space they take up, the air they displace. My mother-in-law dedicated her life to lifting up the less fortunate, Marguerite said. Beautiful words, hollow words. Her legacy will continue through this foundation. I sat in the back row. I had the manila folder in my bag. Yes, I thought, her legacy will continue. Just not the way you think. After the service, Jeffrey Sterling approached me, Eleanor's attorney, 74 years old, practiced with the family for 34 years. He handed me a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten note, Eleanor's shaky script, dated June 10th, 8 days before she died. Finish what I cannot. I trust you. E.A. I folded it carefully and put it in my wallet. I've carried it every day since. Let me tell you about the investigation. Because by the time Eleanor recruited me, I'd already started digging. In January 2025, 4 months before that conversation in her study, the Southern Education Justice Coalition received an anonymous email. SEJC is a nonprofit watchdog I'd co-founded in 2021 under a pseudonym. We investigate fraud in educational nonprofits across the South. The email came in at 3:47 a.m., sent from a burner address, untraceable. Look into Ashford Foundation Scholarship Denials, 2019 to 2024. Pattern suggests discrimination plus financial irregularity. Check applicants with 4.0 plus GPA, 1,400 plus SAT, first-gen status, POC. Cross-reference denial rates with endowment growth. Something doesn't add up. I read it 3 times. Then I realized someone was asking me to investigate the foundation that had paid for my education. The foundation run by the family of the man I was in love with. I called my SEJC co-founder. I need to recuse myself from this investigation. Unless you're the only one who can access the data, she said. Can you? I could. As executive director of First Light, I had access to all of Ashford Foundation's public filings. I had relationships with other nonprofits that had applied for grants. I could gather data without raising red flags. I documented everything, every step, every decision, recusal protocol, legal review, board oversight, because I knew if I found something, if it was real, I'd need to be bulletproof. It took 3 weeks to find the pattern. IRS Form 990, public record. I downloaded 6 years of filings from ProPublica's Nonprofit Explorer, 2019 through 2024. Foundation assets, $340 million. Reported scholarship distributions, 4.2 million per year, average. But here's what didn't match. Over those 6 years, 156 highly qualified applicants were denied. Average GPA, 3.87. Average SAT, 1,420. First-generation college students, 87% students of color. Meanwhile, administrative costs had jumped from 8% to 22%. Where did the extra money go? I found it in Schedule O of the 990, Supplemental Information. Consulting fees paid to 4 companies, total $2.1 million over 5 years. Ashford Consulting Solutions, Heritage Advisory Group, Palmetto Strategy Partners, Low Country Management LLC. I Googled all 4, registered in Delaware, privacy state. Same registered agent, no websites, no employees listed on LinkedIn. I documented everything in voice memos to myself. All 4 companies registered within 6 months of each other, 2019. All payments approved by M. Ashford as foundation president. Then I traced the bank accounts. It took a subpoena through SEJC's legal counsel, the kind of investigative authority nonprofits have when fraud is suspected. All 4 shell companies funneled money to a single account. Account holder, Marguerite R. Ashford. Personal checking, First Citizens Bank. But the smoking gun wasn't the money. It was the students. I personally interviewed 12 of the 156 denied applicants. They'd moved on with their lives. Some were in college elsewhere. Some had dropped out, couldn't afford it. Some were working full-time jobs they'd never wanted. I met Jasmine Rodriguez at a coffee shop in North Charleston. She'd been denied in 2021, 4.0 GPA, 1,580 SAT, accepted to USC. They told me the foundation was focusing on different demographics that year, she said. She was 22 now, working retail, no degree. I didn't know what that meant. I just knew I couldn't afford tuition. She'd kept a copy of her application. I read her essay. It was about being the first in her family to graduate high school, about her mother who cleaned houses like mine. After that interview, I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Marguerite hadn't just stolen money, she'd stolen futures. Eleanor's letters filled in the rest. I read them after she died. Jeffrey Sterling gave them to me the week after the memorial service. 6 letters, dated March 20th through May 30th, 2025. Each one notarized by Thomas Whitfield, Notary Public Number 8652. Each one witnessed by Dr. Patricia Morgan, psychiatrist, and Jeffrey himself. Letter number 3, dated April 8th, was the worst. Eleanor's handwriting, blue fountain pen ink on thick paper. Today I confronted Marguerite about the shell companies. I showed her the bank statements. She didn't deny it. She said, "What are you going to do? Tell the board? They'll think you're senile. Tell the police? You'll destroy Samuel's legacy." Then she smiled and said, "You're dying anyway. This will all be mine soon." I read that letter on June 25th, 2025, 1 week after Eleanor's funeral. I was alone in my apartment, and I cried for the first time since the rehearsal dinner that hadn't happened yet. Eleanor had endured this alone, month after month, watching her daughter-in-law steal from children, unable to stop it without destroying everything her husband had built. She'd been so brave and so alone. I folded the letter carefully and put it back in the folder. "I won't let you down," I whispered to the empty room. By July 2025, I had everything I needed: complete evidence, airtight case, federal violations, state violations, civil liability, criminal exposure. I also had a problem. I was engaged to Preston Ashford. We'd been together since August 2023. He'd proposed in October 2024. The wedding was planned for November 29th, 2025. I loved him. That was the problem. I loved him, and I was about to destroy his family. I kept a journal that summer. Private, hidden, working through the moral calculus. August 14th, 2025. Preston proposed because he loves who he thinks I am: kind, forgiving, understanding. If I do this, he'll see who I really am, someone who chooses justice over comfort. Will he still love that person? Do I even care? I tried to tell him 14 times that summer. 14 moments where I almost said, "Your mother is stealing from children." But each time I stopped, because once I said it, I couldn't unsay it, and I needed to know something first. I needed to know if Preston would choose right over easy when it mattered. So I made a plan. The rehearsal dinner would be my test. If Marguerite attacked me, and I knew she would eventually, and if Preston stood up for me publicly, defended me, chose me, then I'd tell him everything. We'd handle it together. We'd save the foundation together. But if he didn't stand up, if he sat down when his mother told him to, then I'd know. I need to tell you how we met, because that matters too. August 19th, 2023, First Light Annual 5K Charity Run, Waterfront Park. I was running to clear my head after a difficult week. Preston was running alone, no family, wearing regular athletic gear, no designer labels, no visible wealth. We collided at the water station at mile 2, both of us reaching for the same cup. We laughed, started talking. "I'm Cole," he said. Middle name. I learned that later. "What do you do?" I asked. "Architect. Affordable housing. Boring, I know." "That's not boring," I said. I meant it. "That's important." He smiled like I'd given him something. "You're the first person who's said that." We exchanged numbers. First date was 4 days later. Coffee. Same place Eleanor would later choose. For 6 months, I didn't know he was in Ashford. He introduced himself as Cole. He drove a 2021 Subaru Outback he'd bought himself, refused to use trust fund money for cars. He was kind, thoughtful. He listened when I talked about First Light, about the students, about why the work mattered. I fell in love with him because he seemed different from the wealthy people I'd learned to navigate in my job. He seemed real. February 2024, 6 months into our relationship. He invited me to meet his parents. We pulled up to the estate on South Battery, Greek Revival Mansion, 1842, 7,200 square feet, appraised at $8.9 million. My stomach dropped. I recognized the address. It was on every piece of Ashford Foundation letterhead. Cole, I said slowly. What's your last name? He looked confused. Ashford, Preston Cole Ashford. I thought you knew. Your family's foundation funded my college scholarship. He lit up, excited. That's amazing. It's like fate. I forced a smile. Yeah, fate. But inside I was panicking, because I'd just fallen in love with the heir to the organization I was planning to run someday. And I had no idea his mother was a thief, not yet. That first family dinner was February 2024. Formal dining room. Table that seated 12. Only 4 of us present. Me, Preston, Marguerite, Harrison. Marguerite was polite. Cold polite. The kind that feels like a test. A scholarship, she said, smiling without warmth. How resourceful. Preston, dear, you didn't mention Alexandra came from such humble circumstances. Preston was oblivious. Mom, she went to Yale, that's incredible. Of course, Marguerite said. We do love a good charity case success story. The china had the Ashford family crest. The wine was 2015 Bordeaux, $340 a bottle. I was wearing a borrowed dress because I didn't own anything appropriate for estate dinners. Driving home, Preston said, I think that went well. I said, sure. I knew it hadn't. I knew Marguerite had already decided I wasn't good enough. I just didn't know yet how far she'd go to prove it. Preston proposed on October 12, 2024. Sunset at the Battery. White Point Garden. Private, simple. The kind of proposal that felt like him, not his family. The ring was Eleanor's. He'd asked her permission before she got too sick. Platinum band, 2.3 carat diamond. She'd worn it since 1953. I don't care about my family's money or name, he said. I care about you. Will you marry me? I said yes, because I loved him, because I didn't know yet what his mother had done. The next day, Marguerite called. Bring Alexandra to lunch. We need to discuss wedding arrangements. That lunch was the beginning of the end. January through November. 2025 was a double life. I discovered the fraud in January. Eleanor recruited me in March. She died in June. By July, I had all the evidence compiled. And through it all, wedding planning continued. 8 meetings, venue, caterer, florist, photographer, band, invitations. Every detail controlled by Marguerite. Every choice I made, overruled. The rehearsal dinner venue? Marguerite's choice. Magnolia Plantation. $62,000. Total cost. I smiled through cake tastings. I documented embezzlement at night. I tried to tell Preston. 14 times. 14 moments where the words were right there. Your mother is stealing from children. But I couldn't. Because once I said it, everything would change, and I needed to know first, would he believe me or would he choose her? November 21st, 6 days before the rehearsal dinner, Marguerite called me directly, first time ever. I need to discuss something privately. Coffee tomorrow? We met at Peninsula Grill. Upscale, expensive, not my choice. She didn't waste time. I'm offering you $200,000 to end this engagement quietly, she said. Matter of fact, like buying a car. You could pay off student loans, help your mother, start fresh. Preston would be hurt, but he'd recover. This is more money than you'd see in 5 years at your little nonprofit. I had no student loans. I'd paid them off in 2022, lived frugally, saved everything. I'm not leaving Preston, I said. Her smile disappeared. Then you'll regret staying. I stood up. 11 minutes total. See you at the rehearsal dinner, Mrs. Ashford? I meant it as a promise. She heard it as a threat. She wasn't wrong. The night of the rehearsal dinner, after I walked out, after I drove home, after James called with his warning about the emergency board meeting, I sat down and did what I'd been preparing to do for months. I sent the email at 12:33 a.m. Emergency meeting of Ashford Foundation Board, fiduciary breach and financial irregularities, 72 hours notice. Bylaws, Article 6, Section 3. Meeting scheduled for December 9th, 10 a.m. My office, not theirs. My territory. I CC'd everyone who mattered. Board members. Jeffrey Sterling. IRS, Special Agent Rebecca Thornton. Deputy AG Daniel Fletcher. The press. I attached the evidence. 47.8 megabytes. 340 pages. The email delivery receipts started coming in within hours. Jeffrey Sterling. Read at 1:14 a.m. Board member. Dr. Helen Cartwright. Read at 6:47 a.m. Marguerite Ashford. Read at 7:02 a.m. I imagined her face when she opened it, when she saw the recipient list, when she saw the attachment size, when she realized I wasn't the girl she thought I was. Marguerite tried to fight back. November 28th, 9 a.m. She held her own emergency board meeting, the one she'd called before my email went out. Only 4 board members showed up, her loyalists. Jeffrey Sterling attended, but he didn't represent Marguerite. He represented Eleanor's estate. Mrs. Ashford, he said, calm and precise, I have documentation from 3 medical professionals attesting to Eleanor's full mental capacity on the date she appointed Ms. Pritchard. I also have Eleanor's written directive that Ms. Pritchard's appointment cannot be revoked except by unanimous board vote or legal cause. You have neither. Marguerite's face went white, then red. I want that girl removed from this board immediately. You don't have the authority, Jeffrey said. The meeting lasted 14 minutes. He shut it down. Marguerite's next move, legal action. By 2 p.m. that same day, her attorney, Bradford Hayes, expensive white shoe firm, filed an emergency injunction. She wanted a court order blocking my board meeting. Her grounds, conflict of interest, engaged to Preston, plus defamation, fraud allegations. The hearing was scheduled for December 2nd. I received the court filing at my office at 4:17 p.m. 28 pages of legal boilerplate. Charleston County Court of Common Pleas. Case number 2025. CP 108629. I read it once. Then I made one phone call. IRS Special Agent Rebecca Thornton. December 2nd. The injunction hearing. Marguerite's lawyer argued conflict of interest. My lawyer, Sarah Mendez, pro bono from SEJC, brilliant and fearless, argued that I'd properly disclosed my relationship, recused myself from decisions benefiting Preston, and had a fiduciary duty to report fraud. The judge was Patricia Simmons. Reputation, no nonsense, hates frivolous motions. Then Agent Thornton stood up. Your Honor, she said, the United States opposes this injunction. Ms. Pritchard's meeting involves evidence relevant to an ongoing federal investigation. Blocking it would constitute obstruction. We've already subpoenaed the Foundation's records. This meeting will proceed. Judge Simmons looked at Bradford Hayes like he'd personally wasted her time. Mr. Hayes, your client is trying to stop a meeting where federal investigators will be present. Motion denied. 31 minutes, total. Oral ruling, written order to follow. Outside the courthouse, I saw Preston. He'd attended. He sat in the back row. We made eye contact. He mouthed, I'm sorry. I walked away. Sorry wasn't enough anymore. The week before the board meeting, December 3rd through 8th, something unexpected happened. Allies emerged. James called first. "Whatever you need, I'm in." Then Harrison, Preston's father, requested a private meeting. We met at Kudu Coffee. December 5th, the same place Eleanor had first asked me to be brave. Harrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in 1 week. Unshaven. Hollow. "I've known about Marguerite's activities for 3 years," he said. No preamble, just confession. "I was too weak to stop her. My mother was right to choose you. I'll testify if you need me." "Why now?" I asked. Because watching my son's face at that rehearsal dinner, I realized I've taught him cowardice. I won't die a coward. Then Dr. Helen Cartwright called. Board member. Retired nonprofit executive. African-American woman in her 70s who'd dedicated her life to education equity. "Eleanor talked to me before she died," she said. 47-minute phone call. She told me what she was planning. She told me she'd found someone brave enough to finish it. "I believe you, Alexandra. I'll vote with you." By December 8th, I had what I needed: evidence, allies, federal backing, and one more thing. Eleanor's last letter, dated June 10th, 2025. "You are braver than my family ever was. Finish this." December 9th, 2025. The day of reckoning. I arrived at the First Light office at 7 a.m., early. I needed time to set up. 23 chairs, 23 evidence packets, water pitchers, extra pens. The conference room walls were covered with photos of scholarship recipients, 156 faces, kids who'd made it, kids we'd helped, and interspersed among them, 12 photos of students Marguerite had denied, students like Jasmine Rodriguez, futures stolen. I wore a simple navy suit. J. Crew, $240, not designer. I wanted to look exactly like what I was, the scholarship girl, hair in a low bun, no makeup. I wanted Marguerite to see me clearly. I wanted her to remember who she'd underestimated. People started arriving at 9:47 a.m., Agent Thornton first. IRS early and professional. Deputy AG, Daniel Fletcher. South Carolina Attorney General's Office, Charity Fraud Division, Jeffrey Sterling, carrying a leather briefcase older than I was. Board members trickled in, nervous, curious, whispering to each other. Press. William Porter from the Charleston Post and Courier, camera bag, notepad, 9:58 a.m. Marguerite arrived. She was 3 minutes late, power move. She walked in expecting her meeting, her agenda, her control. Instead, she saw 23 people, federal badges, press cameras, Jeffrey at one end of the table, me at the other end. Her face went through a progression: shock, rage, then forced composure, the mask sliding back into place. She looked at Jeffrey. "What is this?" "This is the meeting Ms. Pritchard called," he said calmly. "Properly noticed. You received the email 11 days ago." "I will not participate in this farce." "Bylaws require your attendance. Refusal constitutes breach of fiduciary duty." She sat, stiffly, at the far end of the table from me. Preston entered behind her. 10:04 a.m. He sat separately, not on her side, not on mine, somewhere in the middle. I stood. "This meeting of the Ashford Foundation Board of Directors is now in session," I said. My voice was steady, clear. "Madam Secretary, please note attendance for the record." I started with the numbers. Clean, factual, no emotion. Between 2019 and 2024, the Ashford Foundation denied scholarships to 156 qualified applicants, 87% of whom were students of color. During that same period, $4.8 million was transferred from the foundation to shell companies owned by a single individual. I projected the first slide. A photo. Eleanor Ashford with scholarship recipients at the 2018 gala. Smiling. Hopeful. Today, we will review the evidence, and then This board will vote on next steps. Marguerite interrupted. This is slander. I move to adjourn. I didn't blink. Motion requires a second. Do I hear a second? Silence. Complete silence. Motion fails. Proceeding. Exhibit A. Bank statements. First Citizens Bank. Marguerite's personal checking account. Deposits totaling $2,134,560. 2019 through 2024. I projected each statement. Let the numbers speak. Exhibit B. Shell Company Registrations, Delaware. Corporation Service Company. Registered agent. 4 companies. All registered within 6 months in 2019. Ashford Consulting Solutions. Heritage Advisory Group. Palmetto Strategy Partners. Low Country Management, LLC. All leading to one account. Marguerite's. Exhibit C. Invoices. Strategic Planning Services, $127,000. Consulting Q3 2021, $89,500. Advisory Services, $156,000. No supporting documentation, no work product, no deliverables. Because there were no consultants. There was only Marguerite stealing from children. Agent Thornton stood. For the record, IRS has confirmed these transfers constitute self-dealing under IRC Section 4941. Penalties include excise taxes and potential criminal referral. Deputy A.G. Fletcher. South Carolina Code also prohibits self-dealing by charitable organization officers. We're reviewing for prosecution. Around the table, audible gasps. One board member, Thomas Whitmore, distant cousin, stood and walked out. Couldn't stomach it. Marguerite's voice shook. Those were legitimate consulting fees. We hired external experts. May I see the work product from those consultants? I asked. That's proprietary. There is no work product, I said. Calm, factual. Because there were no consultants, there was only you, Mrs. Ashford, taking money meant for education and using it to fund your lifestyle. Exhibit D, the denied students. I projected the spreadsheet. 156 names, color-coded by ethnicity, GPA, SAT scores. First-generation status. Average GPA, 3.87. Average SAT, 1,420. 87% students of color, all denied. Then I showed the emails, subpoenaed from Foundation servers. March 2021. Marguerite to Foundation staff. We need to be strategic about our scholarship allocations. The board responds better to recipients who reflect Charleston's established families. Let's focus on quality over diversity mandates. Dr. Helen Cartwright, sitting 3 seats from Marguerite, started crying. Silent tears. She didn't wipe them away. William Porter's camera clicked from the back of the room. Once. Twice. These students deserved scholarships, I said. The foundation had the money, $4.8 million that went to shell companies instead of education. How many futures were stolen to fund one woman's lifestyle? In the months before her death. In the months before her death. These letters were notarized, witnessed by her attorney and psychiatrist, and given to me with instructions to use them if necessary. I projected the first letter on the screen. Eleanor's handwriting, blue fountain pen ink, shaky but legible. Letter number 3, April 8th, 2025. I read it aloud. Today I confronted Marguerite about the transfers. I showed her the bank statements. She did not deny taking the money. She said, "What will you do, Eleanor? Tell the board? They'll think you're senile. Destroy the foundation Samuel built? You don't have the spine." Then she smiled and said, "You're dying anyway. Soon this will all be mine, and no one will remember you cared." The room was silent except for Dr. Cartwright's quiet crying. I read 2 more letters, each one more damning than the last. Eleanor's voice, from beyond the grave, bearing witness. When I finished, I looked at Marguerite. Eleanor Ashford loved this foundation more than anything. She couldn't bear to destroy it publicly, so she asked me to save it quietly. Today I'm finishing what she started. Marguerite was given the opportunity to respond. She started strong. Denial, deflection, attack my motives. This is a vendetta by a woman scorned. I told her she wasn't suitable for this family, and now she's… Agent Thornton cut her off. Mrs. Ashford, are you denying that these bank transfers occurred? The foundation needed consultants. We paid for services. What services? Can you name one deliverable? Marguerite faltered. Strategic advice, planning, I don't have to justify. Bradford Hayes, her lawyer, leaned in. Mrs. Ashford, stop talking. Now. But she didn't stop. You people don't understand what it takes to maintain a legacy. Sometimes sacrifices… She stopped, mid-sentence, realized what she'd just said. Deputy A.G. Fletcher looked up from his notes. Mrs. Ashford, did you just refer to denying scholarships to qualified students as sacrifices necessary to maintain legacy? Marguerite stood abruptly. I need to leave. Jeffrey Sterling. You may not leave until the board votes. She sat back down, hands shaking, mask finally shattered. I made the motion. I move that this board, 1. Suspend Marguerite Ashford from all foundation duties immediately. 2. Authorize an independent forensic audit. 3. Cooperate fully with IRS and Attorney General investigations. 4. Restore scholarships to previously denied applicants where possible. All in favor? Hands rose around the table. Dr. Cartwright, James, Harrison, Jeffrey, 4 other board members, 8 hands total. Opposed? Marguerite raised her hand. 2 loyalists followed. 3 opposed. Motion passes, 8-3. Mrs. Ashford, you are hereby suspended. Please surrender foundation credit cards, keys, and passwords to Mr. Sterling before you leave. Marguerite stood, chair scraping loud against the floor. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door. At the threshold, she stopped, turned back, looked at me. No words, just a look that said, "You'll regret this." I looked back, calm, steady. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. She left. The sound of her heels on the stairs, descending, getting quieter, then silence. William Porter spoke from the back. Ms. Pritchard, can we ask questions? Outside, I said. After we finish board business. We continued for another 20 minutes. Logistics, selecting a forensic audit firm, appointing an interim president. Harrison volunteered. I'll step in as interim president. I'll resign from all for-profit boards to avoid conflicts. It's the least I can do. Then Preston spoke. First time all meeting. He stood, voice breaking. I want to say, I'm sorry. To the board, to the students who were denied, to Alexandra. He turned to look at me. I sat down when I should have stood up. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I'm resigning from the board. I don't deserve to be here. I kept my face neutral. The board will vote on your resignation at the next meeting. For now, we have work to do. He nodded, sat back down. We adjourned at 11:22 a.m., 1 hour, 22 minutes total. Board members filed out. Several stopped to shake my hand. Dr. Cartwright hugged me, crying into my shoulder. Harrison approached privately. Thank you for giving me a chance to do the right thing. Finally. Through the window, I saw Preston pacing outside. Agent Thornton touched my arm. We'll need your testimony when we bring charges. You did good work here. I just kept a promise, I said. Outside, the press was waiting. 6 reporters, 3 cameras. I gave a brief statement. Foundation Board voted to suspend President pending investigation, cooperating with authorities, committed to restoring scholarships. I refused to discuss Marguerite personally. That's a matter for investigators. I refused to discuss Preston. That's private. William Porter asked, Ms. Pritchard, you were engaged to Mrs. Ashford's son. Did that relationship influence your investigation? I disclosed the relationship to all relevant parties months ago. My obligations were to the Foundation's mission and to Eleanor Ashford's legacy. I fulfilled both. Will you marry Preston Ashford? Next question. 9 minutes. 14 questions. I kept it short. Professional. As the reporters dispersed, I turned to go back inside. Preston was standing there, 10 feet away. He'd been listening. Our eyes met. I shook my head, slightly, walked inside. The door closed behind me. The media storm hit fast. Charleston Post and Courier published online at 6:14 p.m. that same day. Ashford Foundation president suspended amid embezzlement allegations. By midnight, Associated Press, New York Times, Washington Post. By noon the next day, NPR Morning Edition, CNN, Fox, NPR. The Ashford Foundation, a Charleston institution for over a century, is facing allegations that its president embezzled nearly $5 million meant for scholarships. In a dramatic board meeting, the president's future daughter-in-law presented evidence compiled with the help of the foundation's dying founder. My phone. 67 interview requests in 48 hours. I declined them all. The First Light website crashed twice from traffic surges. People wanted to donate, wanted to help, wanted to be part of fixing what Marguerite had broken. December 11th, Marguerite's attorney issued a statement. Mrs. Ashford maintains her innocence. Any errors were accounting mistakes. She will be vindicated. Same day, the IRS announced a formal criminal investigation. December 15th. 7:18 a.m. FBI agents assisting the IRS arrested Marguerite at the Ashford estate. 8 counts wire fraud, 3 counts tax evasion, 2 counts filing false statements to the IRS. The perp walk wasn't planned. But paparazzi had been tipped. Cameras everywhere. Marguerite in handcuffs, leaving the mansion where she'd lived like royalty funded by stolen futures. Local news. Marguerite Ashford, who 6 months ago was honored as Charleston's Philanthropist of the Year, was led from her home in handcuffs this morning. She faces up to 20 years in federal prison if convicted on all counts. Bail, $500,000. Posted by Harrison, using personal funds. Conditions: surrender passport, no contact with foundation staff, GPS monitoring. Her mugshot circulated online. She looked 20 years older than she had at the rehearsal dinner. Preston texted me. December 15th, 11:04 a.m. I know you don't want to hear from me, but thank you. You saved people my mother would have kept hurting. I read it, didn't reply. But I didn't delete it either. Harrison followed through on everything he'd promised. December 12th, wired $5.2 million to the foundation. Personal funds from inheritance and investments. Enough to restore what Marguerite stole, plus create the Eleanor Ashford Second Chance Scholarship for previously denied students. December 20th, filed for divorce. Charleston County, Family Court. Grounds: irretrievable breakdown of marriage. December 16th, public statement read by his attorney. I knew my wife was violating her fiduciary duties. I said nothing because I was a coward. I profited from her crimes by enjoying a lifestyle funded by stolen money. I am deeply sorry. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make amends, starting with this donation and my full cooperation with authorities. He moved out of the estate, bought a modest condo in West Ashley for $285,000, downsizing from $8.9 million. Media called it From Enabler to Ally, Harrison Ashford's Unlikely Redemption. December 18th, he asked to meet me for coffee. 20 minutes. He cried, apologized, thanked me. I listened. I accepted his apology, but I made no promises about Preston. Between December 16th and January 15th, 2026, the Foundation Board reviewed all 156 denied applications. We offered scholarships retroactively where possible. The letter we sent: Dear Name, the Ashford Foundation Board has completed a review of scholarship decisions made between 2019 to 2024. We have determined that your application was improperly denied due to actions by a former Foundation officer who has since been removed. We would like to offer you a full scholarship, effective immediately. 68 students. Some had already graduated elsewhere. Some had given up on college entirely. For them, we created an alumni support fund. 64 accepted. 4 declined, citing distrust. I understood. The first scholarship was awarded January 20th, 2026. Jasmine Rodriguez. Originally denied 2021, now enrolled at USC. She emailed me January 21st. I never thought I'd get to go back to school. Thank you for fighting for people like me. You didn't have to, but you did. I printed that email, framed it, it's on my office wall. Preston disappeared from my life for 8 months. December 9th through July 2026. No contact after that one text. But I heard things. Charleston's a small town when you know where to listen. He quit his architecture firm. Too many Ashford family connections. Too much contamination. Started working pro bono for Habitat for Humanity. Entered therapy. Twice weekly. Dr. Michael Townsend, specializing in family systems and moral injury. And he started volunteering at First Light, Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 4 to 7 p.m. Tutoring students in math. My staff mentioned it in March. That guy Preston has been here every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months. Works hard, doesn't talk much, never misses a shift. You know him? I used to, I said. He logged 312 hours by July. I saw the records. He'd moved out of the family estate, rented a 1-bedroom apartment in Mount Pleasant, $1,400 a month, paid his own rent with his Habitat salary. He was building a different life. I didn't know if it mattered. February 2026. Preston's younger sister, Olivia, came back to Charleston. She'd been studying abroad during the rehearsal dinner. Missed everything. She called me, asked to meet. We met at Kudu Coffee, Eleanor's place, the place where everything started. I'm not asking you to forgive my family, Olivia said. 22 years old, college senior. Or Preston. I just wanted to say, what you did was brave, and I'm sorry you had to do it alone. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm going to law school next year, Georgetown, full scholarship. I want to work in nonprofit governance law, and I needed you to know not everyone in my family is like my mother. She meant it. I could see it in her eyes. We talked for an hour, about Eleanor, about the foundation, about what comes next. As she was leaving, she said, Preston talks about you in therapy. I know because he told Dad, and Dad told me. He's different now. I don't know if that matters to you, but it's true. And I didn't know what to say to that, so I just said, thank you for telling me. Marguerite's trial happened in June 2026, U.S. District Court, Charleston Division. 8 days. Her defense? Accounting errors. Blamed foundation staff. Claimed she didn't understand financial controls. The prosecution brought receipts. Literally. Forensic accountants. Bank records. My testimony. 2 hours on the stand, walking through every document, every transfer, every denied student. Harrison testified. 45 minutes. I knew. I said nothing. She's guilty, and so am I. 3 denied students gave victim impact statements. Jasmine Rodriguez. I was supposed to be a teacher. Instead, I worked retail for 4 years while she bought designer clothes with money meant for my education. The jury deliberated 6 hours. Guilty. 11 of 13 counts. Sentencing in August. 78 months federal prison. 6.5 years. 4.8 million in restitution. 3 years supervised release after. Report to FPC Alderson by September 15th. The judge. Mrs. Ashford, you held a position of trust. You were entrusted with resources meant to help the most vulnerable. Instead, you stole from children to fund a lifestyle of excess. Your betrayal of that trust warrants significant incarceration. Preston attended the sentencing. Sat with Harrison. Not on Marguerite's side. As marshals led her out in handcuffs, she looked at him. He looked away. July 2026. 18 months after the rehearsal dinner. I was at First Light, doing a site visit. Not my usual time. Mid-afternoon. I saw Preston across the room. He was tutoring a student. Explaining algebra. Patient. Kind. Our eyes met. I didn't approach. He didn't approach. But something shifted in that moment. Some acknowledgement that we'd both survived. That we were both still here. That maybe, eventually, we'd need to talk. August 14th, 2026. First Light expansion announcement. We were opening new chapters in Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia. Funded by the restored Ashford money, plus a surge of donations from people inspired by the story. 6.2 million over 3 years. 68 more students each year. I gave a speech at the public announcement. Eleanor Ashford believed education could change lives. She was right. This expansion means 68 more students each year will get the chance I got. That's Eleanor's real legacy. Preston was there. Back row. He didn't approach me. Left before the reception ended. But he'd come. August 20th, 2026. 1 week later. A note appeared at First Light. Left with the receptionist. Addressed to me. Handwritten. 1 page. Preston's careful script. Alexandra, I know I have no right to ask. But I'd like to buy you a coffee and tell you what I've learned. Not to ask for anything. Just to say what I should have said 18 months ago. If you say no, I understand. If you never want to hear from me again, I understand that too. But if there's any chance you'd give me 20 minutes, I'll be at Kudu Coffee next Tuesday at 4 p.m. I'll wait an hour. Preston. I read it 3 times. I didn't decide immediately. I asked myself, what would Eleanor want? Then I asked myself something more important. What do I want? What do I... August 27th, 2026, 4 p.m. I walked into Kudu Coffee. Preston was already there. He'd arrived early. Black coffee, untouched, getting cold. He stood when he saw me. Nervous, uncertain. I sat down. He sat down. We didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would." I almost didn't. "I'm glad you did. I need to say something. And I need you to know I don't expect anything after. Okay?" I nodded. He took a breath. "I sat down when I should have stood up. I chose comfort over you. Over what was right. I've spent 18 months trying to understand why. Therapy, volunteer work, distance from my family. And here's what I learned. I was a coward. I'd been taught my whole life that family loyalty meant protecting the family name, no matter what. You taught me that real loyalty means protecting what's right, even when it costs everything." He looked different. Thinner. No designer clothes, just jeans and a t-shirt, beard stubble, real. "I can't undo sitting down," he said, "but I can spend the rest of my life standing up. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Not yet. I'm just asking you to know, I'm different now. And if there's ever a chance someday that you'd let me prove it, I'll be here." I listened. I didn't interrupt. When he finished, I said, "Preston, I don't know if I can trust you again." "I know," he said. "And I'm not asking you to. Not yet." We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said, "Let's start with coffee. Just coffee. Tuesdays at 4. We'll talk. We'll see." He nodded. Relief and hope and fear all mixed together on his face. "I can do that." September through January. 5 months. Coffee every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Same table, same place. We talked about everything. His therapy, his volunteer work, the amends he was making, my work at First Light, the students, Eleanor's memory. Slowly, carefully, Trust started to rebuild. December 2026. Coffee number 16. I told my therapist I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, Preston said. He said forgiveness isn't the goal. Earning a chance to show who I've become is. Who have you become? I asked. Someone who'd stand up, even if it meant losing everything. January 20th, 2027. We met for a walk instead of coffee. Waterfront Park, where we'd first met 3.5 years earlier. We walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Preston said, "Can I ask you something?" "You can ask." If I proved, really proved, over years, that I've changed, would there ever be a chance for us? I didn't answer immediately. I thought about Eleanor, about my mother, about Jasmine Rodriguez and 155 other students whose futures I'd helped restore. I thought about what matters, what's worth fighting for, what's worth rebuilding. Then I said, "Preston, I don't need you to be perfect. I need you to be brave, and I need to know that if we ever face another moment like that rehearsal dinner, when choosing me means losing comfort or status or your family's approval, you'll stand. Can you promise that?" He stopped walking, turned to face me. "Yes," he said. "I can promise that. And I'll spend the rest of my life proving it." We were standing at White Point Garden, the same bench where he'd proposed in 2024. "Then let's start with coffee," I said, "and see where it goes." We didn't kiss. We didn't hold hands. But we sat on that bench together, 12 inches apart. Not touching, but together. And that was enough. February 2027. First Light Office. The wall of photos, 224 scholarship recipients now, including 64 restored scholars who'd been denied by Marguerite. I stood looking at that wall one evening after everyone had gone home. Preston arrived for his volunteer shift, stood beside me. We didn't say anything for a moment, just looked at all those faces, all those futures. "She'd be proud of you," he said quietly. "Eleanor?" "Yeah, you finished what she couldn't." "We finished it," I said. "You're here too." "Only because you let me earn my way back." In the center of the wall, we'd added a new photo. Eleanor Ashford. Memorial plaque beneath. Eleanor Ashford, 1933 to 2025. Founder. Her legacy lives. Preston wore a volunteer name tag. Preston A. No last name. By his choice. We stood there together, looking at Eleanor's face, and I thought, this is what redemption looks like. Not perfection, not erasing the past, just showing up, day after day, doing the work, earning trust brick by brick. Love the Second Time isn't about perfection. It's about earned trust, rebuilt slowly, carefully, honestly. Preston's still earning it. And maybe, someday, that'll be enough. For now, we have coffee on Tuesdays, and a wall of faces that remind us why integrity matters more than comfort. Eleanor knew that. And now, so do we.